First of all, I'm gonna present the M-Pesa ecosystem in Kenya. First, we have the unbanked population, which was 58% of Kenya's population. And then we have Safaricom, which was 40% owned by Vodafone. Then we have outlets and agents who helped in assessing the large population with M-Pesa. Next, the government of Kenya, who supported by enabling bankless transfers. And finally, Sagentia, who were the core producers and developers of M-Pesa. And now we're going to present the M-Pesa ecosystem in South Africa. First, we have the unbanked population, which was a point of strength in South Africa with 20.1 million people in 2011. Then we have banks, because M-Pesa had to collaborate with the local banks. And then we have the government, which was not as friendly as in Kenya. They did not allow experimenting with the product and made it mandatory to collaborate with banks. Now, outlets and agents, there were significantly less agents as compared to Kenya, only 1,000 of them in South Africa. Next, Vodacom, who despite having 50% share in South Africa, who were not successful in achieving positive network effects. If we compare the two ecosystems, we can see that money had to be transferred through banks in South Africa. And M-Pesa was not the first nor the only provider on the South African market. Knowing that the economic situation in South Africa was more favorable compared to Kenya, M-Pesa was unsuccessful on the South African market. And finally, the mobile phone usage was higher in South Africa with 89% than in Kenya with 85%.
Now we continue with the second question, that it was about which ecosystem risks were most salient in the low adoption of M-Pesa in South Africa. At first, we have strict banking regulation. This forced M-Pesa to partner with banks that offered little penetration among lower income groups in rural areas. A second important reason is fundamental misalignment between banks and mobile network operators. They had different business models respectively. Banks made profit from loans and deposit margins, while mobile network operators operate through transaction-based models. Furthermore, Vodacom and M-Pesa could not partner with big banks because big banks feared M-Pesa would cannibalize their business, so small banks were the only hope. In South Africa, they had existing alternatives as FNB e-wallet and lacked the first mover advantage as e-wallet was a year ahead. In comparison with e-wallet, who had all branches all over South Africa, M-Pesa had only 1,000 agents and were far away located from the user's workplace. On map, here we see in black pin represent e-wallet and the orange one represent M-Pesa agents. The South Africa Reserve Bank, owned by its government, were not much supportive either, as they mandated only banks were allowed to make any form of deposit, removing the independency of M-Pesa to operate as a single entity and enforce them to collaborate.
Moving on to the next question, we see what was the value proposition of M-Pesa in South Africa and why did it not materialize. First, looking at how the value proposition changed from microfinance loans to successful peer-to-peer transfer in Kenya, they proposed the same in South Africa, that is peer-to-peer transfer. As the value proposition was quite similar to Kenya's, second proposition was that the end user was able to pay through retail stores, which meant it would ease them off the long queue they had to wait for in the banks. The value proposition was cost effective, meaning that the transaction charges were less. Banks in South Africa would charge up to $5 for a transaction of $30. M-Pesa would charge significantly cheaper. The next value proposition was to make use of network effects similar to Kenya. M-Pesa wanted to incorporate and encourage new complementers that would create additional value to the customers. For example, retail stores and salary payments. The customer segment of the value proposition canvas, we have customer jobs, meaning what the customer needs, and here it is peer-to-peer money transfer. Gains, which is what do you want to achieve. Here we have convenient ways to make payments and transfers. Pains, which are current issues not having a solution. There is the need of bank account, lack of locations, high transaction fees. Value proposition side of the value proposition canvas, we have product and services, which is the offering, in this case M-Pesa, gain creators, a benefits the customer can expect. For example, availability to pay in retail stores, convenient peer-to-peer money transfers, paid delivers, which are solutions to the issues, no need for bank account, low transaction fees.
Now we see the reasons for value proposition to not materialize despite having a similar successful proposition as of Kenya. And first, it was strict collaboration with banks. Then there were less M-Pesa agents in South Africa, which meant people could not pay from near the workplaces. There was also a lack of trust among people. Due to compulsory collaboration with banks and banks not cooperating, M-Pesa had to collaborate with small banks which were less popular among the population. Then later we have competition from established market. M-Pesa was not the first entrant in the market. They had to face heavy competition from FNB's e-wallet, which was launched a year earlier. As we see, all the risks and barrier which M-Pesa faced compelled them to acquire a less market share, just as we see from the examples here with FNB owning the highest market share. Due to these many reasons, M-Pesa could not replicate the same model from Kenya in South Africa. However, Vodacom left this experience with valuable lessons learned before engaging in future expansions, and I hope we were able to share them with you today. Here we conclude our presentation. Thank you.